This is the B-52 Stratofortress, the long rifle of the Strategic Air Command. It's big, it's fast, and it's heavy. Takeoff weight approaches 500,000 pounds. It carries a 6-man crew. An experienced pilot, possibly you, carries the responsibility of getting it off the runway. The purpose of this film is to help you eliminate error and improper procedure from your takeoffs. The film will review the salient points of a proper takeoff and then analyze pilot error in a series of student takeoffs photographed at Castle Air Force Base. Close attention must be given to the recommended procedures in order to obtain the minimum practical takeoff distance with the desired safety. Of course, takeoff procedures vary with many conditions. However, there are some procedures, the TO lists them under all takeoffs, that should be adhered to at all times. One very important item is a recheck of the takeoff data. Acceleration speed, go-no-go speed, unstick speed. Each of these speeds corresponds to a specific distance on the takeoff roll. As you taxi onto the runway to perform the lineup check, set in the crosswind crab. The control should be neutral with no crosswind. When in position, you're ready for the lineup check. Set the steering ratio selector lever to takeoff land. Check the compass headings with the co-pilot and navigator. Check the stabilizer trim for proper takeoff settings. See that the wing flaps are full down. Acknowledge report from tail gunner. Always use 100% flaps, never intermediate settings. Advance the throttles slowly and evenly toward the full open position. Coordination is important here. You and the co-pilot both observe the engine instruments. Check oil pressure. It should be within normal operating limits. Check RPM, EGT, and fuel flow gauges. At minimum EPR, release the brakes. Remember that total thrust decreases as engine temperatures rise. You gain added takeoff thrust by starting the roll early. Use the rudder pedals for steering throughout the ground run. Do not attempt to level the wings below 90 knots. Leveling of wings at low air speeds will increase ground roll due to the increased drag of spoiler action. Depend on your co-pilot to double-check your procedures. He'll observe trim settings and recheck engine instruments on the roll. As you pass the acceleration speed marker, check airspeed. It should agree with computed takeoff data. If speed is below the minimum allowable, you may abort. If there is loss of acceleration from any cause before you reach go-no-go speed, abort the takeoff with a maximum effort stop if necessary. Also, check your airspeed at the go-no-go checkpoint. If abort is mandatory, make a maximum effort stop. Use full-up elevator control well before the unstick point. If an engine failure occurs after commitment, continue the takeoff. At unstick airspeed, the aircraft will leave the ground in the proper attitude, provided, of course, that elevator trim has been properly set. The forward wheels will come off first. Release back pressure to counteract pitch-up as you leave the ground. Apply wheel brakes before retracting the gear. Check the gear up. Climb to 1,000 feet at 180 knots. Then the co-pilot will retract flaps and ensure that both flaps retract simultaneously. Follow emergency procedures should you encounter a rolling moment due to an unbalanced flap condition. At all times, observe flap placard speed and follow the prescribed climb-out procedure during normal retraction. Be aware of a possible altitude loss as the flaps come up. After flaps up, maintain minimum recommended airspeed. That completes your takeoff procedure, and that's the way you should do it every time. Every step was accomplished exactly as pre-planned before you entered the aircraft. The takeoff data was carefully computed in the flight planning room. And that is where safe takeoffs begin. Here is another room concerned with safe takeoffs, the Office of the Director of Flying Safety. His business is improving your flying techniques. He selected the scenes you're about to see in order to point out the effect of improper takeoff technique. A rear gear first takeoff will occur if the trim stabilizer is set too low. It can also happen if you delay a rearward movement of the control column until just before the takeoff point. This type takeoff may increase the ground run by as much as 5%. Runway bounce may be caused by either relaxing the control column too soon or by roughness of the runway, such as the dip at Castle Air Force Base. Warning, dip plus back pressure for takeoff may cause a nose-high attitude, which can extend takeoff distance as much as 14%. If the bounce causes nose-high attitude, lower the nose easily. Then let the aircraft accelerate to the proper speed before taking off. Pitch-up will occur if the stabilizer trim is set too high. This can cause a dangerous accelerated stall. To correct for extreme pitch-up, push the control column well forward and retrim immediately. As the aircraft regains proper attitude, return the control column to normal. Excessive aileron control on takeoff causes bicycling on the runway. The gear and wingtip on the low side may be damaged in this situation. To avoid this, actuate the control wheel in small increments. Hold this position until the low wing comes up, then return the control wheel to neutral. Of course, a good pilot can recover from almost any situation. But flying safety believes that a lot of situations could be avoided by proper planning. Flying safety would rather see takeoffs like this one.